Welcome to 21st Sports, and we're talking about the New York Giants and Tom Coughlin. So the Giants and Tom Coughlin have parted ways, and I don't know about this one. I think it's kind of a bad decision by the Giants. I can see somewhat understandably where they decided to part ways with Coughlin, but Coughlin is a Hall of Fame head coach, and he won 2 Super Bowls with the Giants. That's not a guy that you want to get rid of, and especially when you actually look at the numbers on the offensive side of the ball, the Giants were pretty good in 2015. Of course, they ended up 6-10 in large part to going 1-6 in their final 7 games. I mean, they were 5-4, but then they go 1-6, finish 6-10. They had a chance to win the East, but that wasn't going to be enough to save Coughlin's job as they end the season with a 3-game slide, which they actually had 2 3-game losing streaks in that final 7 games. Of course, winning against Miami in Week 14, but first they lost to the Patriots. They had the bye week. Then they lost to the Redskins and the Jets, and that's Weeks 10, 12, and 13. And then another 3-game losing streak in Week 15, 16, 17 to finish the season with losses against Carolina, Minnesota, and Philadelphia, the first 2 of which are playoff teams. And even if you go back to the first 3-game slide, New England and Washington are also playoff teams. So 4 of those 6 losses in the final 7 games were against teams that are in the playoffs. So it was a rough schedule at the end of the season for the Giants, and now they pulled the trigger. And the thing is, I mean, you look at the numbers on offense overall, the Giants were 8th in yards, 6th in scoring. And in their passing offense was 7th in yards. Their rushing offense 18th in yards. But then on the defensive side of the ball, that's where they had their problems. That's why they had their struggles and couldn't win games down the stretch. And that's the thing is, I think that the Giants, that they need to make some moves and bring in somebody to maybe be an assistant head coach that's more defensive minded, and Coughlin's getting up there, but on the offensive side of the ball, he still can work that magic, and him and Eli had a really good rapport. But on defense, though, they need to do something, as they were 32nd in yards allowed and 30th in points allowed. And on passing defense, they were 32nd. Rushing defense, 24th. And that's the thing is, they got JPP back, and then they go 1-6 in the final 7 games. So they really didn't shore up that defense by any stretch of the imagination. But one thing is for sure, as Coughlin said in his press conference, it was not Eli's fault whatsoever. Eli had a really good year. And on offense, the Giants, they put up the numbers, and that's Coughlin's specialty, going way back when he was, a receiver coach for the Philadelphia Eagles and even for the Giants before going to BC and resurrecting football at Boston College in the early 90s. And then he went on to Jacksonville and did a tremendous job as the Jaguars head coach. I mean, he had a winning record with the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's unheard of these days. But he even won 14 games back in 99 as the Jaguars head coach. As he had, during that stretch, 4 winning seasons in a row from 96 to 99, where he just kept winning more and more games. And of course, the 2 Super Bowls with the Giants, and even won 12 games back in 08 as the Giants head coach coming off of that Super Bowl win. Of course, they lose in the playoffs that year. But then, of course, after, they won in 07, and they won in 2011. But the last 3 years, though, they kind of fell off somewhat, as they were 7-9 in 2013, and then 6-10 in both 2014 and 2015. But overall, as the Giants coach, 102 wins and 90 losses. So a winning record, and actually the same winning percentage as when he was in Jacksonville at .531, as he was 68-60 as the Jaguars head coach, and overall 170 wins, 150 losses. Of course, like I said, I mean, and he takes over teams that, are struggling, and then he turns them into winners. Of course, he was the Jaguars' first head coach, took over a team that was new to the league, an expansion team. They were 4-12 that first season, but then in the second season, he had them 9-7, and in the AFC Championship game, of course, they would lose to the Broncos, who went on to win the Super Bowl that year. But he's a Hall of Fame coach. Like I said, he's been coaching since '69 when he was a coach at Syracuse, before moving on to the Rochester Institute of Technology, then going back to Syracuse, and then he was at BC as a quarterback coach before coming up to the NFL in '84 with the Eagles, and then the Packers and the Giants as a receiver coach for all three of those teams between '84 to '90. 2 years with the Eagles, 2 years with the Packers, 3 years with the Giants, before being the head coach at BC from '91 to '93. And said he really resurrected Boston College's football program there. And then he really established the Jaguars as a winning franchise. Of course, they've lost those early established winning ways that he had set forth there in Jacksonville. But as a Giants head coach, he showed he is a Hall of Fame coach. Winning those 2 Super Bowls, there's no doubt about it. So I think the Giants kind of, I can understand with the defensive numbers and with the 3 losing seasons in a row, but still, I think that, and we don't know what happened in the conversation with Coughlin and Mara, but I think they could have done this different. I think that they could have maybe brought in an assistant head coach that's more defensive minded, like I said earlier, to work with Coughlin and handle more, the defensive side of the ball, kind of split some of the responsibilities to let him just concentrate on offense, which is his specialty. They had good success on the offensive side of the ball this year, but they just need their defense to play better. If they could maybe bring in more support for him, then that would have been the way to go. But they decided they're going to go a totally different way altogether. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Giants. And now there's even word that Coughlin might take up the job in Philadelphia. How about that one? First, they go and get the rushing leader from Dallas. And now after getting rid of their coach, they're going to go and try to bring in the Hall of Fame coach from New York. So they like to cherry pick from their own division. But we'll see if that happens or not. But let me know what you think about the Giants and Tom Coughlin in the comments section below. Definitely interested to read your thoughts and opinions. Thank you very much for listening. It's greatly appreciated. Hope you're having a good day and having a great weekend and enjoying all the sports.